Lovely. I am, of course, wearing a turkey hat because it is November, and that means turkey hats are required. I don't make the rules, but if I did make the rules, I would still make turkey hats obligatory in November. What's coming up? Well, I don't have any more big events this year. I have decided what I'm going to do for my end-of-the-year project. It's not going to be a big, fancy build. It's going to be the culmination of a project I started several years ago. I never finished. I'm looking forward to that. It should be a lot of fun. I should get to show off some stuff and build some fun toys in the process. Stay tuned for that. I've been spending a lot of time in my Lego room. If you're not aware, I do have a Lego channel, Captain Xavier's Brick channel, and that's where I've been focusing my energy for a while. I had so many Nerf stuff just back to back to back to back. I needed a break, so that's what's been going on there. Let's answer some questions and then get to Anne Package. Johnny Blaze, how is your blacksmith shop coming along? It isn't. I haven't even started that project. It's far down the line when I have piles of extra money lying around. Arison Stoubley, if someone offered you the responsibility for a $2 million trust with the stated intent of promoting STEAM and positive team activity skills via nerfish endeavors, what would be your reaction, and in the most general of terms, how would you choose to proceed? My reaction would be, what, why, who, how, why? And my general terms on how to proceed, I would probably turn it down. I don't think I'm qualified to be responsible for that kind of money. Nor do I really have the time or the freedom to be able to do it properly. But I would talk to whoever was trying to foist this great pile of cash upon me and figure out what exactly they were really looking for. My channel already focuses a lot on STEAM stuff, on teaching and learning and how to modify stuff, and a lot of my build guides and my mod tips videos are built around that. And I also have a lot of videos that are about team building and organization and all of that. And so I guess what I would suggest would be travel, for me to go places and teach things in person, because it's a lot more viable when you can actually do it hands-on. Either that or bring people here to the makerspace and be able to use it the way I intended it. But also possibly going to Nerf events and actually organizing teams and teaching squad tactics and teaching leadership and how to lead and how to follow and all of that kind of stuff. But you'd have a hard time actually getting me to sign on to a project with that much financial responsibility, for which I do not feel qualified. But, TW300. Are there any kind Nerf blasters you'd like to be made more of? It's an odd way of wording that. Yes, I would love to see more select fire SMG type things. The Phoenix 2.0 is lovely, but the form factor is a little meh. It's a little bit big. I'd love to see it shrunk a little bit. I also prefer the magazine in front of the grip rather than in the grip, just because it makes the grip chunky with Nerf mags. Unless you could make one that took Nightingale mags. I'd love to see something about a little bit bigger than a Nightingale that was select fire or at least burst. I'd love to see more big battle rifles, because I like things like the Stampede. I like a big beefy blaster. And more air-powered rocket launchers. I'd like to see the return of the Titan or something similar, you know, air-powered demolisher rockets as opposed to HAMPs. They've all been HAMPs up to this point. And now that we have the Moto Blitz as a demonstration that Nerf can make compressed air blasters again, I would like to see that, but for demolisher launchers. That is what I would like to see. Josiah Mayfield, where do you stick stickers you acquire? I put them in a pile in a bin right over here by the side of my desk. I don't actually put stickers on things. I don't like stickers. If you've watched my Lego channel, you know my view on stickers. They are the worst. Austin Black, if you had to have a dinosaur mount, can't imagine who's forcing this upon me, which would you pick and why? Well, that would depend on a lot of things. Do I actually have to feed this creature? I definitely don't have the infrastructure to keep any animal that's large enough to be a mount. I don't have a stable, I don't have fenced area, I don't have the food for something like that. I mean, I can't imagine going with a T-Rex and needing to feed it a cow every day, or a Brontosaurus and having it eat my entire forest on day one, and then what do I do with it? Same thing, I mean, with any large, I mean, even like An Ankylosaurus would be something I'd enjoy because they're slow and pondering and armored, and that definitely fits my idiom, but I don't have a large enough field to keep an Ankylosaurus fed. That leads to some issues. If such logistics are not part of the question, then I would lean towards an Ankylosaurus, though also some sort of a fast-moving carnivore. Like the Jurassic Park version of what a Velociraptor looked like. I realize in real life they were actually much smaller and probably feathered. But something, Velociraptor-ish, but large enough to be ridden. T-Rex would be too big to be, I feel, manageable, so smaller scale, somewhere in there. Yeah, that's what I would go with. James Wright, in your opinion, what has been the most influential blaster in the different lines such as N-Strike, N-Strike Elite, Zombie Strike, Mega, Rival, etc.? That is a really long and complicated question because there are so many different lines, but in general terms, it's usually going to be whatever the first one was. Whatever was the flagship blaster of that line is what it's going to be judged by. And if it was a really good blaster, then anything that comes after it that isn't as good is going to seem even worse because you started strong and then you got weaker. And if the first one was really weak, then one of two things will happen. Either the stuff that comes out that's better will then seem even better because our expectations were set low, or if it's bad enough, it will tank the entire line and it may never recover, like in the case of Ultra. The Ultra 1 was so poorly received, and because it was a meh blaster. There were already blasters that were exactly like it that took ammo we already had, and so bringing out this new ammo type, but having it for a blaster that wasn't anything special, made it seem even worse in my opinion. I think if they had started with the Ultra 2, which was a rear-fed revolver, I think that line may have been better received. I don't know how much better. They were still trying to force a new ammo type on us that wasn't any better, and in many ways worse, because it was brittle and expensive and took up more space, and so it tanked the whole line, kind of. But then you have things like the Longshot, which was one of the first magazine-fed N-Strike blaster. And that's still an iconic blaster, and they've re-released it numerous times, and it continues to be a very viable platform, even in this day of caliburns and whatnot. You can still build a perfectly viable Longshot, relatively cheap. If you want to go all out, it can get quite expensive, but you can build a competitive blaster in a Longshot shell fairly easily to this day. Then you have things like the Strife that really kind of set the standard for semi-automatic magazine-fed blasters, because any blaster that comes out after that, the question is, well, is it as good as the Strife? Is this a Strife killer? And none of them have been so far because they haven't been around as long. The Strife was on the shelf for like 7 years, and as a result, there were hundreds of options, thousands of options for different motors, wheels, cages, body kits, all of this stuff, all these 3D printed stuff, all of this, even injection molded, milled stuff, all this really cool stuff for the Strife that I don't think there's any other blaster that has quite as many options as the Strife did. It was just such a beautifully, modular, versatile, and yet compact system. It's a fairly small blaster for everything that you can do with it. Then for Zombie Strike, you're going to have things like the Hammer Shot, which again was a brand new concept. Well, it wasn't the one that started with the Sweet Revenge. But a Hammer Prime blaster was a new thing, and it came out in Zombie Strike, and it really was a good blaster for HVZ, because you could dual wield, but it was small, it was compact, it looked cool. Again, the variety of kits that exist for it is, there's many, many different kits, different cosmetic kits, different cylinder kits, all kinds of stuff, internal kits. Radioactive has gone nuts with it and created all kinds of amazing things. That's kind of how you can tell that is the influential one. Whichever blaster is getting the most stuff made for it. So things like, for Zombie Strike, Hammer Shot. For N-Strike Elite, I would say the Strife. For N-Strike, the Longshot. For Mega is kind of a tough one because it started with the Centurion, which was meh. People expected it to be much more powerful than it turned out to be. They're expecting an actual sniper rifle, but it's still Nerf. It's still going to have limitations. The Magnus was the better one. It had an internal magazine. It was small, but it gave you the big ammo, which when we started having blasters that the ammo did different things, that was a good option because it was compact, it was small, but it had the bigger ammo. It was neat. What else did you list on here? Rival. I mean, the Kronos was one of the first ones, and it was, or I don't know if it was one of the first ones, but it was a pistol, and that was really, really cool. They started with things like the Apollo and the Zeus, which were magazine fed, but the magazines didn't have high capacity. Then we got things like the Hera and the Hades and the Prometheus and the Nemesis, and suddenly Rival had huge capacity, and that changed the game of, what Rival was all about was, well, you can hold a lot more ammo in Rival suddenly than you could in anything else. Where that started out the opposite. If Rival held less than many of the other things. We had, only 12-round magazines, 7-round magazines compared to, 35-round drums and 25-round drums, and, But then we ended up with 200-round hoppers, and now we have proton packs, and so... yeah, it's a really complicated question. I don't know if there's one that was the most influential, but it's a neat thing to talk about and discuss and debate, I suppose. DGamer50. Given how good your luck was with honey badgers on AA's for simple upgrades, have you ever wondered what Merlins or now Lokis would do in that situation? I doubt they would work at all, because those motors were designed for a lot higher current. The reason the honey badger can operate on AA's relatively well, it's not the best option, but it works, is because they are capable of functioning on very low current. Whereas most of the other motors out there are designed for a much higher current, and if you try to run them on AA's, they will have no torque. Even if you put in enough AA's to get to the voltage they need without enough current, they will spin at the right speed, but they will have no power. As soon as you try to put a dart through them, they will just instantly jam because they don't have enough current to have enough torque. People understand voltage. Voltage is typically what's going to result in the speed of the motors, but current is what determines the power of the motor. How hard is it to stop them once they start moving, and how much can they move? How much, yeah. So I don't know for sure. I've never tested them, but I doubt they would work at all, and they definitely wouldn't work very well. Michael Nimrod. Can a retaliator with expanded plunger tube and metal parts take a K-26? No. It's not the strength of the internals that is the problem with the retaliator. It's the size of the catch mechanism. K-26 has too large of a diameter to be able to fit in the catch, because the catch goes around the spring. And the K-26 is too large, and the catch mechanism will jam on it. It won't work. Jamie Lupercio? With your experience in medieval archery, would you use a faux bow pro in a game? No. On account of my medieval archery experience, I know what a bow is supposed to do and how it is supposed to work, and the faux bow doesn't. It would drive me nuts. And also, the arrows are huge and ridiculous, and I like to have a back quiver with a dozen arrows in it, and that would just... No. No, sir. No. I will soon be doing a video on a bowish type blaster. Stay tuned for that, if I can ever manage to get it all working at the same time. And finally, C. Hayes. My high school does something called Senior Assassin, which is played with Nerf blasters. Gotta go hunt down a target while not getting hit. Basic rules. What are your recommendations for a loadout? Oh, see, I've never played one of these games, so I don't have any practical experience to bring to the table. But I would imagine that stealth is a key part. But you would also want probably range and accuracy, or potentially volume of fire. You brought up a Strife in the full question. A Strife isn't a bad option. There's a few situations where a Strife isn't a good blaster choice. I don't know how well you'd be able to conceal it, and unmodified, maybe. They typically, as you said, they're hard to even come by anymore. There are other small compact blasters, depending on what the rule set is, what blasters you're allowed to use. A Nightingale would probably be a really good option, especially if you want the low-powered one, which only has 100 FPS, which is, stock in some cases. It holds more, it comes with a magazine that holds, I think, 15, 10, 15, something like that. It uses half darts. They're more accurate. It's very concealable. It's obviously more expensive, but they are available on Amazon, so there's that. If you want to go super stealthy, get yourself a Jolt, something you can just stick in your pocket and just walk up behind and blam! You'd be surprised how powerful Jolts can be. Obviously slow reload, not the greatest range, but better than most people give them credit for, especially if you practice with it and can draw it quickly or can fire it from a concealed... it really kind of comes down to your play style. Do you want to be covert, or do you want to just go in all guns blazing? So, yeah. That wraps it up for questions. Good questions. Some good questions. Some complicated questions. Ones that I could have expanded on for days, probably, if I wanted to. Let's get to this package. Aha! Oh! I hit. Right. We have one package, and it is a dubious package. A suspicious package, because this package comes to me from a member of my own crew. This comes to me from able crewman recruit Frey, and I have no idea why they're sending me a package. It might not be something that I'm actually supposed to open on camera, but I'm gonna anyway, because it's the only package I received. So let us see what we have in here. Here. Sweird. Sweird. What? Hazelnuts. I've been sent a bag of hazelnuts. I do like hazelnuts. Hazelnuts are delicious. What is going on in here? Open the thing. A note! Oh, good. An explanation. Warning! Contains nuts and shells. Chaylo, despite the dampness of autumn, I hope this finds you happy and well, resting from the summer campaign. It was lovely. I look forward to our next arena game under the pines, relatively dry. This thumb drive contains 10 gigabytes, about 50 minutes of this first time Vice visited. If you want, you might add an intro, conclusion, retrospect. It's an interesting other view of their visit. My favorite parts of the Vice film crew playing Bucket-O hammer shots. Until next time, best wishes, Frey. So yeah, it's a thumb drive with, he had a GoPro on during when Vice came to visit, which that video is live, by the way. If you want to go take a look at that, Vice came out to my place and we ran them through the arena, and it was a lot of fun. And then they went to the Mall Mutation Madness event and ran with us there as well. So yes, I will definitely be taking a look at that and making a video out of it. Assuming they are okay with me doing that. I'll have to reach out to them and say if they have a problem with that. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. First, it was just their correspondent that got suited up and played with us, and then once they'd filmed everything they needed to film, we got the film crew to join in as well, and they all had just an absolute blast, tagging each other with blasters. We played Bucket of Pistols, which was a very levels the playing field. We played a couple of other rounds, and they all had a lot of fun. So that'll be fun. And then hazelnuts. I'm gonna eat a hazelnut. Yum. I'm gonna eat another one. Yes. Delicious. Alright, well, there we have it. Thanks for the questions. If you have more questions you'd like to ask them in the comments of this video. That's where I pull my questions from. And as always, thank you for watching. Aha!